get started by saying good evening. I'm Joanna White. I'm the Assistant Director of Program Scholarships and Awards at the FSU Alumni Association. And I thank you so much for joining us with our final Career Services focused webinar of 2022. We look forward to coming up with new programs for the next year. But for now, we will end on a very exciting note. We're very excited to have Amanda Bussey. I'm sorry, I didn't even clarify
Bussey,
at the beginning. Bussey, thank you. Before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and thank our members who may be joining us and our corporate partners. Your partnership and your memberships help us afford virtual webinars just like this. This particular one is brought to you by Golden Key Consulting, which is an FSU alumni-owned business. And then I will show that one at the end. So I will go ahead and introduce Amanda. She is an FSU alumna, which you completed your bachelor's in marketing in 2005, and you're a certified specialist in both wine and spirits. You've been with E&J Gallo Winery for several years, most recently as a sales recruiting manager based out of North Carolina. And you're joining us tonight to help provide insights on how to responsibly network, especially when alcohol is involved. And we'll have time at the end for question and answer. If anybody has any comments they want to leave in the chat as we go along, we can try to answer them as we go. But without further ado, Amanda, if you would like to go ahead and take it away, that'd be great.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So as I'm getting my screen all set up here on this side, Joanna, thank you so much for the introduction. I'm so happy to be here. This is the second time I've had the pleasure of speaking to the Alumni Association in the past couple of years. So I'm excited to be here as an alumni. I'm so excited. I love being back on campus. I'm responsible, as she was saying, I'm one of the sales recruiting managers for the E&J Gallo Winery. I've been with the company now for 17 years. I was recruited as a student at Florida State to enter their sales leadership development program. And all these years later, it's kind of come full circle. So I love having the opportunity to come home quite frequently and be on campus. I'm actually in Tallahassee right now. I'm in a horrible hotel room with horrible lighting. So I apologize, guys. I look green. It's horrible, but we're going to work through this. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit tonight about a couple of different things. One, we're going to talk about the E&J Gallo Winery. Who are we? Where did we come from? Why am I qualified to have this unique conversation with you guys tonight? We're going to talk about just basic networking tips. Maybe someone out there is interested in changing jobs, or you're networking to get a promotion or a new job placement. Hopefully I can give you some tips of kind of what employers are looking for and how to handle yourself in those situations. And then we're going to jump into what do you do when alcohol is involved in these professional situations? I know as a young professional, I am completely okay with admitting that I was definitely overserved in professional situations. And I love sharing tips and tricks on how to avoid that so that other people don't end up in the same situation that I did all those years ago. So, and then at the end, we'll talk a little bit about our career opportunities in case anyone here is looking for a new opportunity, or maybe you have a child, a grandchild, a niece, a nephew, someone here at State that might be interested in a career in wine and spirits. I'll tell you a little bit about what we offer and what I'm recruiting for. So let's just jump right in. Who are we? Who is the E&J Gallo Winery? I'm sure if I could see all your hands, and I asked you if you were familiar with our company, how many of you guys actually would be familiar and know who we are? Typically, next to no hands go up. Oh, yeah, I see one, Alan. I can see you on the screen. I love it. I love it. But most people, when they associate, if they do, or if they are familiar with us, they associate us with jug wines, and we are way more than that today. We were founded way back in 1933 at the end of Prohibition by brothers Ernest and Julio Gallo, hence the E and J in our names. They were young. They were in their 20s, clearly not in that picture right there, but they were eager to start a business and strike out on their own. They had grown up on a farm, kind of growing grapes. They just didn't have any winemaking knowledge, so they were lucky enough to find a pamphlet in the basement of their local library on how to make wine. They took out a loan from Ernest's mother-in-law, and they were kind of off to the races. That first year, they made 177,000 gallons of wine, which sounds astounding. It sounds like a lot, but compared to what we produce today, it's really just a drop in the bucket. But they were successful right from the get-go. That first year, they sold every single gallon of wine that they made, and the rest is kind of history. Today, almost 90 years later, We are the world's largest winery, and we're still family owned, which is outstanding. The picture you see there on the screen, this is our executive leadership team, second and third generation Gallos that are now running the company and doing an amazing job. They've made a commitment to us to remain a family owned company for generations to come, which gives us a lot of confidence as employees and kind of unique positioning in the marketplace too. But we are more than just that Modesto-based American winery. We have a global reach. We currently export to about 110 different countries, and between all of our wines and spirits, we import from about 12. So pretty impressive. We truly do reach around the entire globe. But if you're not familiar with us, if you're like, hey, Amanda, I drink wine. I've never seen the Gallo name on anything. I don't know how you're the world's largest winery. I don't get it. You might still be confused. Maybe this will bring it into picture for you a little bit. I'm sure there are some people on the screen that have had some Andre Mimosas before college tailgates, before the Seminole games. I know I have. The ones that you see here on the screen are mostly items that really resonate with college students for the most part. High Noon, for example. I don't know if you guys, High Noon Pineapple, my number one. But we truly have a large, expansive portfolio just as diverse as our clientele. We currently represent close to 200 wines and spirits. Either we own them or we represent them. So this is just a snapshot of our portfolio. But hopefully, if you weren't familiar with us or you had no idea who we were at all, this might bring it into picture for you and make a little more sense now. So hopefully now you know why I'm uniquely qualified to have a conversation with you about networking and drinking at the same time. It's because it's our industry and we're kind of the best at all of it. So tonight we're going to talk about a couple of things. One, we're going to start off with basic networking. How do you engage with employers in professional situations and leave the best impression? Basic do's and don'ts. We're going to talk about social interview tips. That's where that alcohol comes into. What does it look like from a social interview perspective? Why do employers do it? And how do you present yourself in the best light without being overserved? We'll talk a little bit about ordering like a pro. Maybe you're new to drinking. Maybe you just don't drink that much, but you want to feel confident whenever you're going into a situation where you have the opportunity to order alcohol. We'll give you some tips and tricks for that too. And then, of course, end after the recap with our opportunities for the evening. So let's talk about just networking in general. If you're going out to meet an employer or to meet with people within your organization, just to kind of network, my best advice I can give you is to arrive early. Stand to greet others if it's a seated situation. Now, a lot of the stuff I'm going to go over, you guys may be like, this is common sense. This is just manners. You would be surprised at what I see as a recruiter, especially with college students. They get a little nervous sometimes, so I love sharing this information and just reiterating the stuff to have it top of mind. If you are in a situation where there's a seated dinner or you're just entering a conversation that you're just kind of walking in and trying to nudge your way into the conversation, I highly advise that you introduce yourself to every single person in that conversation, not just the one person that you may be targeting. Of course, make sure your cell phone is silent. I'm not sure who leaves their ringer on anymore, but make sure your cell phone is silent so you're not interrupting a good conversation. In fact, if you have a smartwatch that you know when it buzzes, it distracts you, maybe don't wear it that evening. Maybe make sure that it's in silent mode as well so that you're not constantly looking at your wrist. And I always recommend eating a little ahead of time. Now, this goes for two reasons. One, obviously, when we start having the alcohol conversation in a few minutes, it's going to help you have food on your stomach before you start consuming alcohol. I mean, that's just drinking 101, right? But also, when you're going to a networking event, you're going to meet people. You're going to conversate. Eating at that event should not be your top priority. So eating a little bit ahead of time keeps you from being hangry, which I'm almost there today, right now. But it also keeps food on your stomach so that you're not just beelining it for the buffet. You're actually taking time to network and get to know people at that event. So as recruiters, as employers, what do we love? What are we looking for from new hires or people that we want to promote? Well, confidence, first and foremost. I always feel for the students whenever they walk up at a career fair or an information session and they can't make eye contact and their hands are sweaty and you can just tell they're so nervous. We're looking for people that are able to project confidence. I want people to come up and ask good questions. asking questions that you can just Google the answer to, probably not the best thing. But being able to ask good questions about the position that you're applying for, you're interested in, is going to go a long way. Make sure you're confident introducing yourself. Have that elevator speech already prepared and rehearsed so that you make that confident first impression. If you have referrals, if you know someone within the company, name drop. This is going to help you get that job interview. Or if nothing else, it's going to help you start a conversation that maybe wouldn't have been as easy to make before. I encourage everyone, always be very cognizant of your nonverbal communication, holding good eye contact, not fidgeting or clicking that pen you might have in your hand, making sure, again, that you're portraying confidence in that situation. Be prepared. If you're in a situation where you're going to bring a resume and maybe leave it behind with someone, be prepared to have specific examples of everything listed on your resume. I have seen a young lady before have babysitting listed on a resume, which I was kind of baffled by. It's like, yeah, we all babysit, but I've never seen it on a resume. And I asked her, I said, why do you think that experience is relevant to what you're interested in applying for? And she was able to defend it. She told me exactly what she had learned from babysitting, the crisis management skills, the time management skills, the everything. I mean, she went on and on. I was like, now that's the way you defend a unique entry on your resume. So make sure you're able to defend everything that's listed there. Be authentic in those situations. Employers want to get to know you just as much as you want to get to know them. I can read your resume. So in your elevator speech, don't just read it to me. Tell me about who you are. What have you done? What have your experiences taught you? Leave an impression. And we're also looking for skills that can't be taught. I know I hire for sales positions. I can teach anyone to sell. If you can talk to a brick wall, I can work with that. What I can't teach is a positive attitude. I can't teach people skills. I can't teach charisma and work ethic. Make sure you're bringing that to the conversation whenever you have a chance to engage with employers in a professional situation. What you don't want to do is stand in the corner all night and just drink or just eat. You're not there to stand in the corner. You're there to meet people. You're not there to stare at your phone or to speak to people that only you know. Networking events are meant to build your network and get to know other people. So go out there and shake a lot of hands, but don't start every single conversation with a business card. Should you have business cards? 100%. Should you share those at the end of the conversation? Yes. But just walking up and handing them out and trying to initiate a conversation like that, probably not the best vibe. Make sure you're passive listening. Oh, I'm sorry, don't listen passively. I'm sorry, I got it all wrong. Make sure that you're active listening, that you're in there to have a meaningful conversation and build a relationship. Just talking about yourself is probably not going to leave the best impression. Be cautious of your language. I always mention this to students because it's so easy to drop inappropriate language in a conversation. Heck, by the end of this presentation, I may have cussed once. But in a very professional situation where you're trying to make the best impression to get a job interview or a promotion, be very cognizant of the language that you're using. And of course, if there's alcohol, don't overdrink, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. Some additional things to avoid that we absolutely hate seeing at these networking events is, or things that employers are looking for, I should say, unprofessional social media posts. If I see a TikTok pop up that I have to ask you to remove before your third round interview, probably not a good idea. But making sure you're very cognizant of the image, your personal brand that you're putting out there in the world. Unique resume submissions. Keep them simple, guys. Black and white, bullet points, organized from most recent experience to the oldest experience. Keeping it as simple and easy to read. The average recruiter is only going to spend about 30 seconds looking at your resume. We need to find that information that we're looking for as fast as possible, and we're not flipping it over. Make sure it's only one page. When you're in this networking situations, if you're appearing disinterested, probably not going to bode well for you. Or dressing inappropriately. We all know how to dress professional as adults, right? Be as conservative as possible, regardless, especially if you don't know the company's vibe. Maybe they're the type of company that has a keg in the break room and they wear jeans to work every single day. That's okay. You're not there. You're not hired. Always dress for the position above you, right? So make sure you're going in dressed appropriately, and then you're not appearing arrogant. I always appreciate it when students or candidates have done a lot of research about a company and they know exactly what they're walking into. But appearing arrogant and overconfident. There's a fine line between confidence and cockiness. Let me just leave it at that. Or it's just as bad if you appear uninformed. If you've done zero research, you don't come with good questions, you don't know what's going on, it's just as embarrassing. Making sure that you're providing those specific examples I mentioned earlier, super important. And of course, not asking good questions, which I think we've already mentioned before. But let's talk about these networking situations. Typically, there's going to be a buffet with finger foods, right? So you're walking in, especially women, if you don't have a purse, you're going to have your cell phone in your hand, you're going to have your keys. You got to get a drink, you got to get a plate. How do you literally juggle it all? It's hard. You cannot hold everything in your hand at one time. Make sure you're always leaving one hand free to greet people. So either have a cup or a plate, not one or the other. Find a high top to sit your food down or to sit your drink down to make sure you always have one hand available. And make sure, this is down a little bit further, that if you do eat, especially if it's finger food, wash your hands. I cannot tell you how gross it is to shake someone's hand that's just held a slice of greasy pizza. So making sure that basic etiquette is there and you're remembering that in this situation. One of the options that I always throw out there, and I kind of mentioned this earlier whenever I was talking about eating beforehand, don't eat at all if you go to these events. If you're worried about juggling a plate of food and juggling a drink and shaking hands and meeting people, don't eat. You're not there to eat. You're there to meet people, to make an impression, to build your network. Eat beforehand or make dinner plans afterwards. The key to these networking events is to eat quickly, network slowly. And a pro tip, if you are in line for the food, let's say you are hungry, or maybe it's slow and you have to have those mini crab cakes. You just can't wait. That's fine. Go do it. Maybe even strike up a conversation with the person in line next to you. You never know who that person's going to be or how they're going to help your career. In fact, it might be an easy transition from that food line over to a table in order to consume your food really fast before you continue in your networking for the rest of the evening. So you never know where you're going to make friends. So let's jump into the fun stuff. What if there's alcohol? What if there's an open bar? So why would employers do this? Or where would they do it? Well, many different places. I mean, networking events like we're obviously talking about, maybe it's a business lunch once you're already into your career. Maybe it's a happy hour with your coworkers or a fancy work dinner with clients. There's tons of opportunities for you to be evaluated by a superior or a hiring manager while consuming alcohol. And we do this for a very specific reason. In fact, we do this at Gallo. If you're interviewing for our sales leadership development program, our third round interview, we fly everyone down to Tampa and they go through a couple of days of interviews and workshops and different things. And every night there is an event where there's an open bar. And it's simply to see how candidates handle themselves in that situation. Who's going to overdrink? Who's going to stand in the corner and not get to know people and take advantage of that situation? We want to see how you handle yourself when there's alcohol involved. And it's especially important to us being in the alcohol industry. But more and more employers are interested in this and seeing how you handle yourself. So some tips and tricks to not embarrassing yourself and not drinking too much in these situations. Going back to like what I mentioned before, eat a little bit beforehand. You're going to have nourishment on your stomach, so it's going to slow down the metabolism of the alcohol in your system. Maybe it's going to fill you up so that maybe you don't want to drink that big heavy beer because you've already got a full stomach. Avoid having drinks beforehand. Now, I'm not sure how many people on the call today have maybe had a glass of wine before a presentation or a glass of wine before a first date because you're nervous. You want to make sure to take the edge off before going into those situations. Don't do it. That's just one more drink of alcohol that you're going to have in your system that's going to catch up with you eventually. If you know that you're going to be drinking in a professional situation, don't take the edge off beforehand. It does not tend to end well. Also, set your limits. I'm sure everyone here on the call has kind of different limits of what they can tolerate from an alcohol perspective. If you know that you get ridiculous after 2 glasses of wine, set your limit to 1. If you know that it only takes 1 beer to make you tipsy, maybe set your limit to 0. That might be the move for that evening. But don't risk your professional reputation just because you want to hang out with the crowd and be smart. In fact, I always recommend 1 for 1. one drink, 12 ounces of water, 1 glass of water for every drink that you consume, every alcoholic beverage. This is going to give you, this is going to do 2 things. One, I mean, hydration, right? Makes sense. But it's also going to slow down your drinking. So if you're drinking water, you're not going to be drinking alcohol that time. It's also going to make sure that you have something in your hand at all time. So whenever that drink is empty and that coworker wants to come over and say, hey, I see you're empty. Let me top you off. Let me get you another drink. You've already got something in your hand. They can't give you something else and encourage you, peer pressure you into drinking more. It's always a good idea if you have the ability and the willpower, one and done. Just have one drink, be part of the group, and then end it. This is especially important if you're the one paying for the drinks. If you're the one throwing down your credit card at the bar, get one round, close it out, and put that card away. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a really big expense report the next morning, let me tell you. Sorry, guys. I'm having trouble seeing here. So let's talk about some more good practices. And this is one that always comes up that I like to have a conversation about, if possible, mocktails. I always like this. My train of thought has always been, if you're old enough to drink, mocktails are a great solution if you don't want to consume alcohol, but maybe you don't want the peer pressure. You don't want people to know you're not drinking. Order something that's non-alcoholic that looks like a cocktail. Get a glass of sparkling water with a lime in it. People think it's a vodka soda every day. This has been very common practice among pregnant women for years, right? The one caveat here I would like to add, though, if you're not 21, if you're not of age, do not do this. Employers are inviting you to events. They're probably going to know how old you are. They're going to know if you're under 21. And if they see you with a drink in your hand that looks alcoholic, they're not going to ask questions. They're automatically going to assume that you have a drink in your hand, that you're breaking the rules. If you're going to break the rules in that situation, who's to say you're not going to break the HR rules? Are you trustworthy? If they can't trust you to make an appropriate decision, can they trust you with their business? So keep that in mind. If you're not 21, decline a drink. No questions asked. Even if they're hand passing trays of champagne around for a toast, do not accept. I promise you there is someone that's going to see you. There's someone watching and observing everything that you're doing. If you are 21, do it. Just be responsible about it. And I always recommend using the buddy system. This is something that I feel like, Jackie, you're on the call. We did this in our sorority when we were in school. If you go out and someone starts making just an absolute ass of themselves, someone's going to pull you aside and say, it's time to go home. Well, have a buddy system in these situations too. Have a coworker that you trust that says, at the first sight of me talking too loud, me talking too much, whatever your tick is, pull me out of there. Let's go. Put me in a cab and send me home. Make someone your buddy to just pull you out of the situation so you can be as responsible as possible. So maybe you're not a big drinker. Maybe you're not confident when it comes to ordering cocktails. Maybe you only drink beer, or you only drink high noon, whatever it may be. How do you order in a professional manner in these situations and look like a pro and look natural and fit into the scene? Well, let's talk about a couple of tips when it comes to ordering cocktails in particular. My first suggestion is to keep it clean. 2 in 1, no more than 2 mixers. Keep your drink classic. Think gin and tonic, scotch and soda, Jack and Coke, Moscow Mule. Simple, clean, easy drinks. What you do not want to order is a Cosmo, a Miami Vice, a Hurricane, anything super fruity that looks immature and shows your age. Anything that's going to take the bartender 10 minutes to make. Anything that has a name that you would not order in front of your grandma. Anything that might come in a shot glass. These are all things that you need to avoid in a professional situation. If it's called Sex on the Beach, you do not need it at a work function. I promise you. So that's one of the ways that you can make sure that you're ordering like a professional and not looking like, or not portraying like an immature essence or having that about you. So how can you prepare for a situation? Let's say you have a nice sit-down dinner and you want to make sure that you're ordering wine like a professional, for example. Well, there's a couple of things that you can do to prepare for that situation so that you fit in. One, almost every restaurant now has their wine list or their cocktail list listed online. pull it up beforehand. Do a little research. Know what's there and know exactly what you want before you ever sit down. It's going to make the situation just that much easier. Know what you like and what you don't like. Don't get into a situation where you're like, oh yeah, I'll have a glass of Merlot when you secretly hate Merlot. Don't get bullied into ordering something just that sounds fun, but you have no idea what it is. And have a price point in mind. Knowing kind of the range of the evening is going to help you order more professionally and kind of just move on in a more professional manner. Use your resources. If you get there and you haven't had time to do your research in advance, you have no idea what's going on, you still need help, it's okay to ask for help. That's what mixologists and bartenders are there for. That's what the sommeliers love to share their advice and tell you exactly what it is that you need to pair with what dish. Utilize your resources. In fact, if you have done your research in advance, the baller move is to volunteer yourself to order wine for the entire table. Show that you know what you're doing. It's going to look great. But at the end, or really, I mean, at the beginning of dinner, when you think about it, let the host set the tone. If the waitress or waiter comes to you first for the drink order, and you're not sure that everyone at the table is going to be consuming that evening, just order water or ask for them to come back to you. Let the host, whoever's hosting that event for the evening, let them determine if you're ordering cocktails. If you're ordering a nice glass of wine, whatever it may be, wait for them to set that tone for the evening. So let's recap some just general good practice. For any event, arrive early, eat something ahead of time, obviously for multiple reasons. Stand to greet others, silence your cell phone, limit your social media posts, be very cognizant of your personal brand that you're putting out there. Order simple, easy, clean drinks. Make sure you're introducing yourself to everyone. Don't stand in the corner just eating food or drinking drinks. Make sure you're actually networking and getting to know people. Avoid or order those simple drinks again, as I mentioned. Don't use loose language. Set your limits. Know your limits, set them, and stick to them. If you're not 21, don't drink. If you are, be responsible. And of course, never, ever feel obligated to drink. Do not let anyone peer pressure you into a situation that you're not comfortable with. It's amazing how even in the corporate world and as adults, you get bullied into having that extra cocktail when maybe you don't need it sometimes. Make sure you stand up for yourself and leave a great first impression. So hopefully now you've learned a little bit. And again, you may feel like a lot of this is common sense, Amanda. You would be surprised. So hopefully you learned something from the conversation or took something away that maybe you haven't thought about in a while, or maybe you'll be more cognizant of how you carry yourself in professional situations moving forward. But let's talk a little bit about what I recruit for. What am I hiring for here at E&J Gallo? Well, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's our Sales Leadership Development Program. It is a program that's designed to bring in really highly talented, motivated individuals into our company through our sales organization and give them the ability to kind of build these foundational building blocks. You're going to learn how to sell, you're going to learn how to lead a team, and you're going to learn how to get results through an organization, all within the first 3 positions of your career. That very first position, your phase 1 role, you're an entry-level sales rep working for one of our distributor partners. You're the face of the company actually going into accounts. For example, when I was a sales rep, I had 18 Publixes, a Sam's Club, and a Walmart I was responsible for. Your goal as a sales rep is to go into accounts and build relationships, to sell in new items, to hit sales goals, to represent our brands to the best of your ability and grow not only your business, but the accounts business. You're going to be selling it in big, pretty wine displays many days. And going back the next day and building said display. So it's very physical, it's very hands-on. Lots of moving wine cases and putting bottles on shelves, but it's very doable and you'll be in the best shape of your life, which is also really nice. It's not a cold calling program. Our sales reps are assigned established territories of accounts that want to do business with us, that are currently doing business with us. You're just responsible for going in, again, building the relationship, making sales presentations, and growing the business. And once you've proven that you can manage a territory successfully, that you are motivated, that you're capable of hitting sales goals, you're amazing at building those beautiful displays, that's when you would have an opportunity to get promoted into phase 2, your second position, your first taste at leadership. as a district manager within inside of our distributors, you're in a position to start leading your own team. You'll probably have 5 to 6 sales reps that report directly to you. And these could be the brand new little babies coming in straight from Florida State that you really get to train and develop and mold from day one. Or you could have people on your team that have worked for that distributor longer than you've been alive. I had a team of grumpy old men and I loved every single one of them. But it gives you a chance at a very young age to kind of spread your leadership wings and have the ability to prove that you can motivate other people. And once you've done that, once you've proven that you can motivate that you're self-motivated as a sales rep, and then you can motivate a team and lead them towards a common goal as a district manager, that's when you'd have the ability to move into phase 3 of our program and come work directly for Gallo. So in this role, you could do one of many things, truthfully, but our most common phase 3 position is what we call market development manager. In this role, you are the liaison between the winery sales team and our distributor sales team. You're the glue holding the whole world together. The distributor is now your customer. You're giving them goals and incentives and point of sale and launching new items. You're giving them everything they need to be successful and represent us at an account level to the best of their ability. But you're also helping them execute in many cases too. So again, the whole idea of the whole program is that you're going to learn how to sell, you're going to learn how to lead a team, and then you're going to learn how to get results at that organizational level as a market development manager. We also offer summer internships that kind of shadows everything I just said. There's no real work involved. It's a great opportunity to get fully immersed in our company and our culture for 8 weeks during the summer and spend time going into accounts, learning how we go to market. How do we make a sell? How do we build relationships? How do we build a display? The last 4 weeks of the internship you spend with everyone from Gallo we can possibly connect you with, from finance to marketing to directors, spirits, on-premise, you name it, e-commerce even, so that you come out of that part of the experience understanding all the different career opportunities that we offer. It is 8 weeks. It's every summer, offered in 5 cities in the Southeast. It is a paid internship. You do have to be 21 because, as I put it, you're fully immersed in our culture, meaning you get a lot of free wine as a summer intern. But this is typically rising seniors that have an opportunity that are passionate about sales first and foremost, to have an opportunity to come and spend the summer learning what sales looks like in the wine and spirits industry. So that's kind of what I wanted to go over this evening. I appreciate everyone allowing me to come. I'll leave my information up there just for a moment in case you want to snag any of the information and reach out afterwards to have a one-on-one conversation or ask questions. But speaking of questions, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the screen now and open the floor up for any questions that anyone might potentially have.
Thank you, Amanda. I know there was one that came into the chat. They sent it to me, so I'll ask it on their behalf. They asked if there were any particular mocktails that you would recommend. I know you mentioned sparkling water and lime, but was there anything else maybe that has a creative name that a bartender would recognize, or just anything else that you've seen?
Yeah, I don't know of many, to be completely honest, that are kind of universal mocktails. I feel like most restaurants, if they do offer mocktails, they'll have a separate section of their menu, and it's going to be more customized things that they're used to making. That's maybe a takeoff of their current actual cocktails that they have available. But yeah, I don't know if any off the top of my head that are kind of universally known. Gosh, that's a good question. I'm going to have to do some research now so that I know a few for the future.
Thank you. It's my go-to drinks, just the vodka soda with lime. So I was like, oh, well, that's an easy fix for me, just sparkling water and lime. So
yeah, it certainly is. I think I heard of one the other day that was a cute name, but now I can't think of what it was. If I think of it, I'll email it to you.
I'm gonna say maybe it'll come to you by the end of this.
Yeah, maybe it will.
Did anyone else have any questions? Feel free. You can unmute yourself. Go ahead, Alan. I see your hand.
I had a comment. First of all, Amanda, thank you very much. Your information was very good, and same with you, Joanna. My wife's a grad. Can you all hear me? Okay. Okay. My wife is a graduate of Florida State. I'm a graduate of Georgia State University, and one thing that I've done reason I came on, I've done several alumni networking events and also in entrepreneurship. And I must say that Amanda hit everything. One thing I did want to hit on is when you wear your name tag, it's always good to wear it on the right the right side of you. You see so many
Yep.
people come up and shake hands, they're going to go with the right hand, and
Yep.
that's the one that they'll see more.
Yes.
Another thing, Amanda, you mentioned is about food and drink. And I'm retired now, but I went to many networking things, and it's awful awkward when you're holding food in one hand and a drink in the other, and you can't shake hands with people. And I love your point you made about if you have a drink in your hand, drink Perrier or something with a lime in it, that's perfect. Now I've got one little funny thing that I'm going to be quiet and listen.
I'm excited.
I was doing a Georgia State entrepreneurship demo. It's very similar to this one earlier this year. And I had on my FSU shirt beforehand. And I started the seminar and everything was going great. And my son and daughter-in-law were on it. And my son said, "Dad, you're wearing an FSU shirt for a Georgia State seminar." And
I love it.
to stop the embarrassment, I just said, "Oh, my son just told me I'm wearing an FSU shirt. Sorry, I forgot to change it." But they're a great school anyway. And we were down in Tallahassee this weekend at the homecoming football game. And other than the fact that the guys lost, but it was still a dynamic game, we had a wonderful time in Tallahassee.
Exciting. Alan, I love that you mentioned the fact that I talked about juggling it all and holding multiple things. Whenever I do the seminar in the actual classroom in person, I will bring a cup, a plate, and a business card, and have a student come up and volunteer to practice juggling. Like, how do you handle it all? How do you handle yourself in that situation? And see what they do. It's always fun to see what they come up with.
That's a great idea. Well, thank you all for letting me speak for a minute.
Absolutely. It was great to hear from you. Cyrus, I see your hand is up. Do you have a question?
Hi, yes. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you for the presentation. A lot of it I was somewhat aware of, but some of it I wasn't fully aware of. I'm actually currently a marketing and business development associate at Thomas Howell Ferguson. So we were actually right across from you all at the Career Center. So, hey, it's nice to see you again.
You too.
Thank you. My, I guess, thought and question was I had actually attended, I believe it was like a housewarming probably about a year or two. And we were just kind of told to just bring a wine or some sort of beverage or something. And I'd actually brought I think it was like a Barefoot Riesling, but I was kind of told by the host who knows me well, she's like, "Hey, next time you go out, please talk to me first so you won't bring a Riesling." And so my question is, when you're going to say a housewarming or some sort of event where they maybe encourage you to bring an alcoholic beverage, say like a wine or something of that nature, what type of wine or maybe even what type of brand of wine should you maybe bring?
Yeah, that's interesting that she commented that the Riesling was the problem in that situation. I was expecting you to finish the make sure you bring something more expensive because Barefoot is so affordable, right? And you want to make a good impression, and a gift should probably be more than $8. I'm not sure what the problem with Riesling is, but especially if you don't know the recipient's taste, I think it's always best to go with something a little more neutral. So Riesling tends to be a little sweet, so maybe they don't like sweet wines. I would try to either keep it very, very basic, either Chardonnay or a Cabernet if you don't know what they like. Now, if you know they like sweet stuff, by all means, go for it. There's some fabulous German Rieslings out there. Heck, I like Barefoot Riesling as well, so thank you for the support. But I think to keep it very basic, either Chardonnay or Cabernet, try to spend at least $20. But there's also some, especially if it's like a stock the bar party, there's some fabulous, scotches and vodkas and gins and stuff out there that's in our portfolio that might be good in that situation. But I think that maybe the only problem with the Riesling is maybe they don't like sweet stuff. So just keeping it more neutral.
Thank you. Just to respond to that, she did later on tell me she personally likes Cabernet. I believe it's Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah, Cabernet Sauvignon.
Right. So I ended up having, I think, like a birthday party in my apartment because it was still during COVID. But I made sure, because I knew she was coming, hey, this is specifically for you.
Smart move. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Cyrus. It's great to hear your voice. Any other questions? Well, Joanna, what do you think?
I'm gonna say your
Are we done?
presentation was so thorough. You've nailed it. All of the questions in one go. Yeah, if there's no other questions, I did in the chat at the very beginning put mine and Amanda's LinkedIn profile. I can try to copy that again really quick. Maybe it'll let me. Just to drop that in again in case anybody wanted to connect with us after this webinar ends. And Amanda, I don't know if you want to put your other means of contact back up on the screen, feel free. I also put in the chat a link to the FSU Alumni Association's events page. So as we get more events scheduled for starting early 2023, we'll have that there. We send out all the emails, it goes onto our social media. So hopefully you'd be able to come back next year to more of the career services webinars and any other events that we do virtually if you're not local to the area. But we have, after the pandemic, been able to start doing a lot more in-person events. So it's very exciting. But yes, I believe we're all set. Amanda, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. I know you had a very busy day running around and helping all of us FSU alumni, myself included. So without any other questions, no one's jumped in at the end here. I think we're all set. Thank you so much again. Let me know if you have any final comments.
Well, I was going to say thank you so much for having me. I always love an opportunity to speak and hopefully bring some thoughts to everyone's mind so that they're set up for the future to handle themselves in the most professional way possible.
Great. Awesome.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank
Thanks
you
for
all
having
for
me.
joining us. Thank
Thanks,
you so much,
Joanna and
Amanda. Thank you,
Amanda.
Alan. Thank you, Cyrus, and everyone else who's on here. I appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of your evening and maybe go have a nice glass of wine.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Bye.
Y'all have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.